Welcome to my series Can I Rig It?, where I take random objects from real life and see if I can rig them in Blender. And today I'm gonna try to rig this landing gear. And we're gonna do it with the following steps. First we will create the main bones. Then we will apply some constraints for the spring to work, and also to define a floor that will stop the wheel from clipping through the ground. We will also create a few IK chains, which will be used in various parts of the whole landing gear for additional support. We also can't forget to add some pistons. And no proper rig would be complete without some handy gizmos to control the whole thing. By the way, I'm Nico, a 3D artist, and my passion are robots and other mechanical creations. Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another rigging tutorial. Obviously, because you're here and I'm doing nothing else but rigging tutorials. So, welcome! Today we will take a look at a nose landing gear from a plane. So, recently I did a poll to see what people would be interested in, what to rig in Blender next, and this was the winner. And I think, yeah, it deserves, because it's a very interesting system and there are a lot of small little rigging principles that we can tackle just with this one system. So I hope you will learn a lot with just this one rig, and I would say let's start going. And just a quick overview what we will be doing. So we have, for example, this whole rig here that we can move. Wow! But when we move it down to the ground, you see the wheel actually touches the ground, which is pretty cool. And we'll get to that. There are also some IK systems, like for example here and here. You can already see this one here moving up and down. But there's also one here and one here. And when we rotate the whole thing, whoa, they all move accordingly as they should. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, first of all, we start with a completely brand new rig without any armature whatsoever. So this is our geometry. It's completely loose. There is nothing attached to anything. Okay, I also created the spring here. This is a curve, by the way, with some thickness. So when you go to geometry bevel, you can make it thicker or thinner. This is important later on, so don't turn it into a mesh, leave it as a curve. And by the way, you can get this file in the description below. There's a link to my Patreon, but it's free, so you can just go and grab it and play along with the video. But obviously, it would be cool if you would also consider joining the Patreon. And a short explanation in the beginning, I will use the following shortcuts a lot here. One is Shift S, which is placing the 3D cursor. This really helps a lot to be a little bit more precise where to put in some rotation points and some hinges. The other one is Control Tab. This will help me to get into pose mode very quickly when dealing with the armature. But besides that, I will also show in the corner in which mode I am currently into, because sometimes I'm switching back and forth very quickly, and just so you know where I am currently, either in object mode, edit mode, or pose mode. So the first and most important thing that will happen is this piece will go up and down in this 90-degree angle. So let's place the cursor where we want the first bone to be, and it should be right here where this pivot point is, right here. So we will go into edit mode and select maybe those two parts here. Shift S, cursor to select it, and it will be placed right there where we need it. Awesome. So, Shift A, armature, single bone. Let's go here and take in front so we can see the armature all the time. We'll rotate it to 180 degrees, and also let's get rid of the roll so we have a nice flat bone. Let's make it until here maybe. So this bone will control this main rod, I will call it. Then you can see here, there's this rotating part that will be rotating the whole wheel. And this one will be controlled with another bone that we will create right now. So E for extrude, Z so it extrudes down, and we'll just extrude it up until here. You will see in a second why, because this will be responsible for the rotation of the whole wheel, including this part here. And we place it just until this point, because now we need another bone that will be controlling the spring. So we'll again with E extrude. Oh, 1 second, I again forgot to show the keys. So here are my keys. So E for extrude, Z down, and up to this point where the spring ends. This is very important. so that the bone is starting and ending where the spring needs to be stretched and squashed. Okay, so this will be responsible for the spring. And now we need one more bone that will be the target for this bone here, for us to control where the bone will be stretched and squashed. So again, one more time, E, Z, or Z, extrude it down, and now we will press Alt P to clear the parent so it's a little bit independent. We will parent it later on, but so far it needs to be independent. And for example, we can start with the spring. We will go into pose mode, so you can either click here, choose between those three modes, or just, as I said before, just Control Tab and we're in pose mode. And we'll go into the bone constraints, not the regular armature constraints, and we will take the stretch to constraint. So this will allow us to stretch this bone towards any object that we choose, and we will take this one. By the way, we can also name it, let's say stretch 2. This will be the spring, this will be the main rotation, so let's call it rut, and this will be just main. So what do we want it to stretch to? Well, to this target here, stretch to. So we choose the armature, and then we choose the stretch to. Okay, so now when we move the stretch to, it stretches too, obviously. Okay, so far so good. So when we now move the main bone, okay, it stretches. Oh, by the way, it's always good to have like this main root bone where all the bones are connected to. And since we have like this main kind of structure here, we definitely need a root bone. So if we are back in edit mode, so press Shift A to create another bone, we move it up, and then we'll rotate it 90 degrees, maybe make it a little bit bigger, and this will be our root bone. So root bone means that all the bones need to be attached to it, or the ones we choose to, but the main one definitely. So Control P, keep offset, and now in pose mode we can move this whole thing. And while we're down here, we can also set up the system that whenever the wheel touches the ground, it won't go further, so it will land on the ground. And this is fairly simple. So we'll copy this bone here, we'll rotate it 180 degrees because the bottom part here will define where the bottom of the wheel is, and we'll put it right where the wheels stop. So about, let's say about here. And now there is a constraint that is named very fittingly, which is floor. And this also needs a target object, and the target object will be the height of the floor. So we can choose anything, and when we go back into object mode, we put the 3D cursor back to the world origin. We can just put an empty there. So Shift A, create an empty, we will call it maybe ground, and this will define the height of our ground. And one thing before we continue, we still need to parent these two bones because they are very loose. So in theory, this one should be parented to this main rotation bone, because as soon as this will rotate, the whole wheel setup, including the spring and everything, should also rotate. But this one will have control over this stretch to bone, because this will get the floor constraint to define where the ground is. It looks like this should be parented to this one, but it has to be the other way around. So this should be parented to this one. Control P, keep offset. So this is what needs to happen. This will have the power to control the height of the wheel because it reacts to the floor. And this one itself needs to be parented to the rotation bone. So Control P, keep offset again. Now when we rotate this one, you see all these bones rotate, and this one controls the spring. So now nothing happens so far. When we move this main bone, or even just this one, doesn't really matter, up and down, as soon as the bone touches the ground, you will see it stops. You can see this is what's happening. So the spring should squash, obviously, and the bone at the bottom stops because that's where the wheel stops. And what we can already do is attach the geometry to some of those bones. That will give us a better view of how everything is working and if we maybe forgot something. So I like to do this by switching from octahedral to stick so we can see the geometry better. And the way you attach geometry to bones is first you select the geometry, shift select the bones or the armature, Control Tab to go into pose mode. You select the bone you want this geometry to be attached to, Control P and choose bone. And now when I move the bone, this whole thing moves with it. And that's what we're going to do for all the other bones. So again, geometry, armature with shift, Control Tab, pose mode, select it, and Control P, bone. And this is how it looks like. And we do this for all the other bones. So again, I'm going to do it a little bit faster. this part here, so this is the whole piston with the wheels, this will be attached to the squishy controller here, the stretch 2 controller. Shift select bone. But the spring is still not moving. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. I mentioned earlier that this needs to be a curve because it's important for the thickness to also not be squashed and stretched. When it's a curve, it's much easier to do that. And how we do that is first we select the armature, we select this bone, this spring bone. We go out of the edit mode into object mode. It's just important that this bone is selected last, so this will be memorized. Then with shift select, we select the curve, go into edit mode, and you have all those vertices here. You select all of them with A. And now we want to attach all those vertices to this stretchy bone. And we do that with a hook modifier, and we apply it with Control H. You can see we can define a hook, and we choose hook to selected object bone. We select it, and now you see the spring is moving almost properly, because there's one thing, it's like being squished too much. And that's an easy fix because we can just go into the stretch 2 properties and maintain volume. We just set it to none. Now when we move it up and down, it stays as it should be. So now when we move this main bone again up and down, you see now it's behaving as it should. But there's one thing that is not moving, and this is this part here, and well, basically everything else. We can even rotate it up and down, so that's cool. Let's go to the IK systems. And for those who don't know, IK stands for inverse kinematics. It's a principle where you don't rotate every bone to get to a certain position, but you just take one control bone or one target bone and you move it, and every rotation from the beginning to the end will be solved through this IK system. And we're going to apply it here, we're going to apply it here, and also here. So this will be very fun, and later on it will look pretty complex, but in the end it's just 3 times the same system. So you will see how actually pretty easy it is. And we'll just start here. So we go back into object mode. We select first the pivot point, which should be here between those two here. Shift S, cursor to select it. Let's go back into octahedral mode. Tab to go into edit mode, and press Shift A to create another bone. And we will just move it down here. We don't need to be super precise. I'm gonna hide the wheel here because we need to see what's going on here. So we're gonna move it here, and then extrude with E another one here. So this is already cool, but we need another one. This will be our IK target. So I will just extrude it to the side, and it doesn't really matter in which direction this one is facing, so we'll just put it to the side. But important is that it is also not connected. So Alt P, clear parent, so that is disconnected for now. And now I will show you a quick way to set up an IK, which is when you go into pose mode. You select the IK target, let's call it also IK. Shift select the last bone in the chain, which is these two here, and press Shift I, and it says add IK to active bone, which is this one here. So yes, and you see this dotted line. That this means that the influence of the IK target is going so far. Now if I move it, you have this kind of cool system here. But we also need to parent those two ends of this chain to our main armature. So this one will move with the rotation, so we will parent it, keep offset, and this one will also be connected to the rotation. So let's parent it to this main rotation mode. Control P, keep offset. But now we have to be careful, because now you see that this dotted line is going all the way to the root bone, because now the chain got longer, because now the hierarchy starts with the root bone, it goes down here, it splits basically here, and the default length of a chain goes all the way to the first bone. But we can limit that, so we can just choose this bone here. In the bone constraints, you see the IK constraint, and here you can see chain length. 0 means it goes all the way up to the first bone, but we can limit it to just 2. So you can see now here, it just is limited to these 2 bones. So now when I move it, again, it's just influencing these 2 bones. And now when we move, for example, this bone up and down, this is what's happening. And as you can see, it's fairly easy. So this is already cool. What we can do now is also attach the geometry again to those 2 bones. We'll unhide the wheel, and now when we move the whole armature, I can just move the whole armature. I don't need to choose the bones up and down. You can see we have now this nice kind of system. Okay, let's keep going then. And what we can do now, because we have a very similar system here, we can just copy all those 3 bones here and move them with Shift D, Z, move them up, and we can just place them around here. I'm not super accurate. It doesn't need to be perfect. We'll place this one right about here, but we still need to change the parenting because currently these bones are still parented to these bones here. So the IK controller will be parented to this bone here. Shift select, Control P, keep offset, and this one should be, in theory, attached to this one. We'll do this for now, but we will change it soon. I just want to show you what happens. Control P, keep offset. Okay, so now when we move everything up and down, this is working. So now when we rotate this bone here, this is doing its thing. It's attached to both ends, but when we rotate this bone here, nothing is rotating. Well, what we actually need to do is, because this also needs to rotate, we actually need to parent it to this part here. So again, Control P, keep offset. Now when we rotate it, the IK controller is rotating with it, but not the whole thing. We could also take this one and attach it to this one, but then it wouldn't be connected to this part anymore. So what I like to do is just create one more bone here, extrude it, Z, and connect this bone to this one here. Control P, and we can choose connected. Then they are connected, obviously. And this one will drive the other end of the chain to also rotate. And I can't also attach it to this one because when we rotate this one, it will also rotate to the other side, but we can use a copy rotation constraint, which is an easier way. We just go to the bone constraints, choose copy rotation, and our target will be this one called rod for rotation. So we will choose the armature, we will choose the rotation, and also very important on their local spaces. And now when I will rotate the rotation bone, the other one should mimic its rotation. So let's see. And yeah, now the IK is rotating the bottom part and this one is rotating the top part. So this is already working pretty well. Let's see if everything is still working. Awesome. Even if we go like this far and then rotate the whole thing, it's still moving accordingly. Okay, awesome. So again, we connect the geometry to all those parts. And let's see how it's moving. Okay, this is looking good. This is also looking awesome. Everything's moving. Okay, so now let's add the third IK system. This will be going from here to here. By the way, you see those pistons here pointing up and down. This is way easier to set them up later on, so don't worry about it for now. I will show you in a second. First, we can just hide them because we don't need them. But we need this pivot point here, right here, because this will be Shift S, cursor to select it, because we need more bones here. And I could also just copy this one, but I will just create one from scratch just to stay in practice. So choose the armature, edit mode, and Shift A to create a new bone, and we will move it right here. And with E, we're gonna extrude it one more time here. And we need another IK controller, so I will move it like this. And obviously Alt P, clear it. But we can also already parent it to this one here. So Control P, keep offset, and this one can be attached to this bone here. So also Control P, keep offset. And now we're gonna create a new IK. So Control Tab to go into pose mode, select the first one, select this one, Shift I, and IK. And now we also need to limit the chain again to just 2. So now when we rotate this, yep, it's moving exactly as it should. And you may be wondering, why is it bending into this direction, not the other one? And a very important little secret is that it's actually not super straight. So when we go into stick mode, you can see there's a little bend in there. And this basically determines in which direction those 2 bones will bend. If I move it just slightly to this direction and then go into pose mode and rotate it, you'll see it kind of wants to go the other way. So keep in mind that just this little bend in those 2 bones is defining the direction where those will fold into. So this is looking really good. So again, go into stick mode and we will attach the geometry also to those 2 bones. Bone 1 and bone 2. So let's see. There you go. This is working pretty well. Okay, so now let's get to the pistons. So I will unhide them again. And these will be just defined by two bones that basically look at each other. This is the whole secret behind pistons. It's just two bones that will target each other and look at each other at all times. So first let's get the 3D cursor to this point here and go into edit mode, and again press Shift A to create another bone, Z to move it a little bit down, which the length doesn't really matter. Create a new pivot point here. We go back into edit mode of the armature, Shift A, and we have a new bone. This can also be a little bit shorter. This will be attached obviously to this part here, and this will be attached here. So far so good. And now all we need is some constraints that will target a certain point of this bone here. And this is called damp track. I will add it to both of them, but there is one little problem. When both just target each other, they're in like this kind of dependency loop where one moves and the other one moves with it, but it also is targeted by the other one that will also move then, and because the one moved, the other one moves, and so on and so forth. So it's a whole loop that can lead to some problems. Especially you would see it maybe in some animations that there are some jitters, or it doesn't reset properly. So what I like to do is just add two empties that will be targeted, but they are at the exact same point as the root of each bone. And this will make everything work flawlessly, and it's very easy, so I'll just do that. So we can, for example, go back into object mode, Shift A, create an empty. I like to use those spheres, maybe make them a little bit smaller. This will be attached to geometry here. It's important not to attach it to the armature. So keep transform, I will duplicate it and also move it right here. So selection to cursor. It will be attached to the geometry here. Keep transform. And now when we go back into pose mode, choose the damp track, and the target will be this empty here, empty. You see, it snaps to pointing towards this empty. And the other bone should do the same, but with the other empty. So this one here, and that's it. So I will deactivate both so I can attach the geometry to both bones. And now I can, in pose mode, I can activate them again. And it looks like a piston. So let's see if everything is working properly. Yeah, this looks good. The rotation looks good. One more thing. Oh, we still need to attach this bone to this one here. So Control P, keep offset. I'll keep the offset because the this bone is looking in the other direction. So otherwise this would snap to this part here. So now when we move the whole rig up and down, yep, it's looking pretty good. So also what is awesome with this floor constraint, if you go way down and then rotate it, it will slide above the ground. So it takes its job very seriously to not go below the empty. And also if you move the empty up and down, obviously you change the height of the ground, so you're still flexible to put it wherever you like. But yeah, so that's that. So what we can do now is add a few more conveniences. For example, this one here isn't supposed to rotate that far. You see the whole thing breaks. So we can limit its rotation a little bit with the obviously limit rotation constraint. So it should work in its own local space, and we need to choose the axis, and for them to be the right one, I will just enable them. And we see that the rotation is happening on the Z axis, so this is the only one that should work properly. So we can lock the X and Y, and we will also lock the Z, but we will allow it to rotate just in this 90-degree angle. So we will need to see, check item, I will choose XYZ Euler, sorry. Because for me it's easier to work with the system. So currently it's at 0, but when we rotate it up, it will go until -90. So this is our range between -90 and 0. It should be rotating. So let's do this between -90 and 0. Now when I rotate it, you see it can't go further than just this area. And one more thing that we can do is there is a cool add-on called BONE widget. You can find the link in the description. It's a very cool add-on. It's free, and it gives you all those little bone widgets that you can replace those bones with, so it's easier for you to just use the rig overall. So for example, for this main bone, I like to use this roll symbol or this gizmo. And currently it's very big because its size is set to 1. So this is already way easier to see what it's actually doing. And especially with this little bone here that also needs to be rotating, we can also apply this one to this, but it needs to be a little bit bigger. And it's not supposed to be rotated this way, but this way. Maybe a little bit bigger. So now it's way easier to control. Whoops. Okay, one more thing that we need to fix, but it's an easy fix. We can just, if you go here to the rotations, let's see, it's rotating on its y-axis, so we can just use those little locks here and lock all the other axes. So now, no matter what I do, I don't have to choose any axis, it's just rotating on this one axis. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We can also create some bone collections for the main ones. So for example, this one. This can also get a root widget, which is a little bit big and also needs to be rotated 90 degrees. So I would say this one, and this one are the most important ones. So we can press M, create new bone collection, and I'll just call it main. And here we have now the 2 bone collections, and I can just hide the first one. So we only see the most important ones that we need. By the way, these are the widgets that are created. These are in a separate collection, but we can hide them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is our landing gear setup, which is very easy to control with just a few bones. You can move it, you can rotate it. And now you might be wondering, wait a minute, in your promotional videos there was also another system shown. And yes, you're right, this is this one here, which is a control system for the hatches to open so that the wheel can come out. And it works like this. There is like this main controller that is rotating. This is also rotating the main wheel, but also it's opening and closing the hatches. And yes, this is also part of this whole rig. But this part will be unfortunately an exclusive for my Patrons. So if you'd like to see how to create this kind of system, I would maybe ask you kindly to join my Patreon, and then you will get access to all this extra tutorial content and all the files that come with that part of the tutorial. And if you don't want to join the Patreon, then I hope still that this tutorial was very helpful for you and very informative, and you'll learn a lot. If you want to see even more tutorials like this, then please subscribe to my channel. It would be really, really helpful for me. And hey, it's free, so who cares, right? And if you like this video, then I would also be happy if you click the like button and ding the notification bell so you get a notification whenever a new tutorial comes out. So that would be pretty cool. If you have suggestions for other rigs or some weird contraptions that I should try to rig, then please leave them in the comments below. That would be really awesome, and maybe your suggestion will be the next tutorial. Other than that, as I said before, if you'd like to see more of tutorials or extended ones with the second part of this one, then please consider joining my Patreon. This is the best way to support me, and you will get access to a ton of files and tutorials and behind the scenes stuff, and even my beginner's rigging course, where in each episode I will teach you some basic principles of rigging, including some robotic arms, legs, cables, gears, and pistons. So thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care and bye bye.